Good morning, everyone. Today I'm working on a HVAC, no idle HVAC system for a bunk here. AC is not working, heater's not working, fan's not coming on, display's not lighting up. But what's happening is the customer says that he hits the button for the no idle AC or heat. It lights up now, but sometimes it doesn't. And as you can see, we got no display for our fan, for our temps, and nothing's happening. It's just system's dead, not working. So we're going to go ahead and figure this one out. So we'll go run through the basic tests of our no idle HVAC system and go from there. Alright, so first of all, this is our control center, the fuses and relays under here for our system controller, as well as the compressor and stuff. This right here is for our system controller. It's a 32 pin connector, and this is the controller right here, this unit. That controls pretty much this whole thing. This right here is our AC compressor controller that cycles the AC compressor on and off. Goes to here, the AC the relay, the compressor relay, and this, of course, your blower motor. We've got our blend door. This big connector here is, it's called a 5205 connector. It pretty much just connects the chassis up to the unit. Yeah, this right here is your power and ground to your blower, or your AC compressor and blower. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole unit. Heater core in there. So we're gonna go ahead and, oh, this right here goes out to your cold switch. And then there's another cable right here. That's your remote power module, or not power module, but the linear power module, which is basically your blower motor resistor right there. So that's it. We're going to go ahead and do our voltage checks, make sure we got everything to make sure the system fires up. There's really not too much to it. It looks complex, sounds complex. A lot of people don't like tackling them, but they're not too bad to do if you know what you're looking for. There was a recall on this unit here, which these were a 4-pin. Now they brought them down to 2-pin. So it depends on what style yours has. Might not be the style, but this is the majority of them, because they had that recall done. I forget which years it was, but I remember doing them quite a few years back. But okay, so that's that. So the first test we'll do is make sure we have proper power and ground to this system controller. Go ahead and pop this off. These connectors are a bit of a pain sometimes. There we go. And the pins for these are 31 and 32, so it's going to be these two right here, 31, 32, these last two pins. We want to test power and ground there, make sure it's strong power and ground, so load it up, whether you got a load pro or a headlamp. Make sure we're getting a strong 12 volts on these two pins to turn this whole system on. So I'm going to hook up my meter. Okay, so these pins are really small, so you don't want to spread them. You don't want to just shove your meter probes in there. So you want to make sure you get the right terminal kit. Now, unfortunately, I lent mine out, and of course, the classic, lend your tools out and then you need them. So I gotta improvise. This is not recommended, only if you absolutely know what you're doing, because if you short these out, you'll pop that fuse in there. I just took some regular wire, wrapped it around my leads. Make sure you got a good contact there, and I pulled a lot of the strands back, so I only have like 3 of them there, so it fits in there nicely and it's not gonna spread these pins. Like I said, this is not recommended, but my terminal kit is missing in action, and this is how we're gonna have to do it. Just gonna have to, if you do it this way, just make sure you don't short these these circuits out with each other. But that's how I'm doing it. So there we have it. Wires hooked up to my probes, and this is with the system off. I got the key off in the truck, and I got the heater system or the no idle HVAC system off right now. No switches are on. As you can see, I got 12 volts loaded up. Only drops a few points though, so we got strong solid 12 volts. Now it shows negative because the polarity is not right. My positive's on negative, negative's on the positive. That doesn't matter. So we got a strong sturdy 12 volts, so we know we got good 12 volts going into the controller. Now let's continue testing. Plug this connector back in, and I popped this control connector off from the air compressor or AC compressor relay here, and everything's still off. Keys off, the switch for the driver control is off. I should have power on this pin right here. We're gonna go ahead and test that to ground and make sure we have it. So I'm gonna use that as a ground. It's screwed right into the main chassis frame there, so let's see if we have our 12 volts here. Okay, got that hooked up, got that in there. We are getting 12 volts and I loaded it up. It is strong 12 volts, so that's good. So next we're going to test to see if our relay is firing up. I'm going to make sure we have a good ground on this side here. So I'm going to turn that switch on and see if we're getting this control unit to ground out that pin to turn this on. So I'm going to plug it in here. We should be able to hear that. Now if we do or don't, just don't forget to put that red lock back in there after testing that. So I'm going to go ahead and press that cool button right in here. Okay, that's on. I think I heard a little click, which is a good sign. So disconnect this again. Got a little screwdriver or something to help you with that. Okay, that's out. So you can hear the relay click when you push it on there. So that's good. That means that the controller is working good. We got our good power, and the switched ground, which is controlled here, is turning this relay on. So we're just going to test our power at the relay and the power being sent to the compressor through that circuit to make sure we got good 12 volts. Okay, so that relay is still powered up. Test here. Got a good strong 12 volts there. Good. Test the other side, make sure it's sending power out. Got a good strong 12 volts there, loaded up. Barely drops. So far all our tests are testing out good. So we know this is working properly. You know, this is working properly. Just process of elimination here, and we'll continue our tests. Okay, to continue our testing, we're going to verify that our AC compressor control is working, that we're getting signal to turn the compressor on because we have good power. And so the key's off for the truck still, but that cool switch is turned on. So we're going to make sure that we have good power going into here, into our compressor control, which it will be. Gotta double check, but I believe it's this pin there that is going to need power. And yeah, let me double check. Okay, so it's actually this pin. So this one right here, we should have 12 volts there. Now if you have the system that you either didn't have the recall done on it, or it might be an earlier system, you're gonna have 4 wires here. The 2 wires here and here beside each are going to be power and ground, but they removed the ground on this connector and routed it elsewhere. So this right here is we're just going to test for power, see if we have power on this control unit. Which I still have my meter hooked up to ground there, so I'm just gonna, these leads are open enough where I can stick my meter back there without causing any damage or anything. So test for our 12 volts here, and you can see I got good 12 volts loaded up, drops a couple points. So we know this controller is getting good signal, good 12 volts to turn this compressor on, and it's still not turning on. So plug this back in. and make sure this is good and tight. I'm gonna test my power on ground going to the AC compressor, because everything should be turning on and working right now. Might have a bad compressor, so this goes to the compressor. This comes from our ground and our power relay, so make sure we got good power and ground there. If we do here, well, then we probably have a bad compressor. So let's just hook up. Now I'm going to use what the compressor is using for power and ground instead of chassis ground, just to make sure that, yeah, we are getting strong power and ground. Okay, so I have something pretty weird going on here. So I'm hooked up to power and ground, but I'm only getting 2 volts, and it drops all voltage under load. So I verified that we have strong power being sent from the relay, and what I done is I moved my ground probe here on my meter to a different ground and verified we have strong voltage. So the issue here is we don't have a good ground, because both these ground pins, there and there, these two, we're losing our voltage when I use that ground. So I'm thinking this is going to be our main issue here, why nothing's powering up. So this connector right here, this connector here is your main ground to this unit. So it goes right to our AC compressor. So I'm going to pull this apart here, test this ground, and if this is good, well, then our issue is in this cable somewhere. And if it's still bad, well, this wraps around, goes around, up and down, and it goes underneath the cab into our batteries. So then we'll just check our battery connections and stuff. So I'm going to pull this apart, which should be pushed out all the way in, and this should lift up. Yeah, push that from there. This should lift up. Yeah, like that, and just pull that out. I gotta use 2 hands for this, but I'm going to test our ground. This to ground. Okay, so testing from ground from this connector, I'm still getting the 2.4 volts, so I know for sure I got a bad ground. Now this goes directly to the batteries, so I'm just going to go under the cab, find out what direction it goes to the batteries in the back or the batteries main pack on the side, and check those connections. So there's where the power and ground come out. It looks like it comes down and around and goes into this rear battery box located behind the cab. So I'm not seeing any rub throughs or corrosion, so I'm going to pull this apart. Got to pull the catwalk off, pull the plastic cover off, and then check our connections. Catwalk off. These are usually a pain, but oh, that came off pretty easily. And well, here's where our power comes in. Yep, I think we found our problem. This cable here is broke. So I'm going to test these batteries, but these are probably all charging. Seeing as this ground cable is broke right there, this battery is not charging, and this is the battery that powers our no idle HVAC unit. So I'm going to grab my meter and just test them to verify. So we've got 12 volts there. This is the battery that no HVAC uses, no idle HVAC, and we got 2.5 volts. So we know for sure this is broke and it's not charging this battery. Okay, so what I did, I didn't fix it yet, but I just jumped that battery, the negative terminal there. So now that battery has 12 volts sharing with the other batteries. Let's see if this thing works now. Oh, there we go. Blower, better temps, beauty. So the issue for this was loss in ground. So it must share that controller, this controller here must share the same ground as the compressor. And that's why that's not working. Okay, that was pretty interesting. So I'm glad I found that. Now, your issue you're having might be, you know, anything else. You could have even a bad cold switch. Make sure that's sending power into your control unit. You know, could be bad relays or anything, but those are the basic tests. So, and as you can see, I found the problem just running those voltage and ground tests. And yeah, hopefully yours is as simple as this one, thankfully. But if not, at least those are the basic tests to check for. And I'm glad I found this, so I'm going to replace that cable. And definitely recommend a battery service because all those cables look pretty bad. Alright, take care. Look at that.